All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Robert Emmet Park. We have another grand day for it. We always seem to get lucky that way. And we've got a particularly special guest this morning in the new ambassador from Ireland. First, I'll introduce our wonderful musicians. On the far left is Mitch Fanning on the fiddle. Next to Mitch is Tony Zisselberger, an accomplished box player. And next to Tony is virtuoso accordionist Billy McComiskey. Most of you know Robert Emmet Park was renamed 3 years ago at the behest, primarily, we have Jack O'Brien to thank for that, all the work that he did. And Lisa Murkowski dedicated this park. She was the senator who really ushered the legislation through. So we still give our thanks to that. I just want to take a moment to reflect on and remember the great Irish cultural ambassador Mick Maloney, who passed away less than a month ago. Mick was an inspiration to so many of us, and he is missed terribly. I also want to reflect for a moment on the death of Queen Elizabeth. We certainly respect the royal family's mourning her passing. We understand what that kind of grief is like. We've all had people in family who have died, and we hope the best for them. At the same time, we are very hopeful and pray that King Charles is a better friend to Ireland than Queen Elizabeth was, that he is more proactive, that he follows through on what he has said, that he really wants to make Northern Ireland a much better place. And we hope, above all, that he can get the anti-democratic Union Party to re-embrace democracy and enter into the government in Stormont. And we have hopes that he can have some influence on doing that. But if we need any reminder that we still have a lot of work to do here in America to educate the public about how intolerable the situation remains in the North, all you have to do is pick up any newspaper of the past 2 weeks and see the fawning over coverage of the royal family's activities down to every last royal. And we are certainly hopeful that we can change things going forward in the future. The Irish American Unity Conference, of which I am the national president, as well as the Ancient Order of Hibernians, are working earnestly to resist British oppression in Northern Ireland. There are 2 heinous pieces of legislation currently before the British government. One would grant a full amnesty to all British Army people who killed their own citizens in the north of Ireland. The other one is perhaps even more immediately dangerous, the one which would scrap the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is a key piece of the European-UK trade agreement. And we need to continue to bring all of our efforts to stop both of those pieces of legislation, if at all possible. And in the meanwhile, our work goes on. So just a word about Robert Emmet. Robert Emmet, as probably most of you know, was executed by the British September 20th of 1803. We hold this commemoration every year on the Sunday closest to his execution. He was 25 years old, and he led another of many failed Irish risings. He actually escaped being caught, but he returned to Ireland to try to reunite with the love of his life, Anne Curran. And the British caught him at that time. They immediately put him up on trial on September 19th. He had to stand in the dock for 12 straight hours, could take no relief, he could take nothing to eat, and he had no seat. At the end of those 12 hours, he delivered what is considered to be the most iconic of Irish patriot speeches. It is a marvel, and to our good fortune, it was recorded. There are a couple of variations of it, but it was recorded, and it has stirred Irish freedom lovers for over 200 years now. And we're not quite to the end of the road. Ireland, as all of you know, is not united at this time. 3/4 of it is a country which contributes a great deal to the United States and has done what it can to move things forward in the north. But 6 counties in the northeast of Ireland are still not free. They could be considered the last British colony. And that needs to change, and hopefully as time goes on it will change. So again, thank you all for coming out today. And with that, I'm going to ask our first speaker to step up, Don Connolly. Don is the president of the DC AOH. He was born in Newton, Massachusetts, and he is the grandson and great-grandson of a number of Irish immigrants from County Leitrim, correct, Don? Galway in Connemara, and also grandson of immigrants from Tuam. Tuam is a town which I know very well because I pass through it every time going to Newport, County Mayo. So it's a very nice little town. Dan is in close contact with his Galway cousins. He is a retired Army Sergeant Major, and he also is the proud father of a champion Irish dancer, as is our ambassador is also an Irish dancer in her youth. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Don, why don't you come on up?
Thank you very much, Peter. Peter does far better with no notes than I do with notes. Before I get started, I'd like to express appreciation to our color guard, Sean Michael Fitzmaurice of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, and Maria Humphreys from the Ladies' Ancient Order of Hibernians. We work together on many projects, and there's almost a thankless task standing in the sun today, so please give them a round. Madam Ambassador, I want to welcome you to Washington, D.C. from the bottom of our hearts at the Ancient Order of Hibernians. We've had a very close working relationship with the embassy and hope to continue that. It's with distinct pleasure to be with you today to commemorate the life of Robert Emmet, who gave his life for Irish liberty 219 years ago this month. I'm proud to represent the D.C. State Board of the Ancient Order of Hibernians. It was founded by Irish immigrants 186 years ago to combat persecution against religious, faith, and immigration. The AOH is the largest and oldest Irish Catholic organization in the nation. If there's anyone here from the National Park Service, I'd like to thank them for the work they've done helping us develop this park and get it formalized. I'll leave it to others to detail the life of Robert Emmet, but I'm struck by the number of leaders in at least 19 rebellions that were of comfortable means and could have led lives of luxury and peace had they but bent the knee. From Silken Thomas Fitzgerald through the O'Neill and the O'Donnell to Theobald Wolfe Tone and the United Irishmen, Emmet had numerous examples to follow. Only 5 years after the disastrous rising of '98, Emmet had to know that his efforts may well fail, but what price? Freedom. Looking forward to the present, one can only be amazed at the impact the Irish diaspora has had across the globe. My son was recently a graduate student at Trinity College in Dublin and relayed a conversation he had with a classmate. The other student, a native Irishman, expressed some displeasure at the grip Ireland holds on the descendants of those who emigrated and the idea that many still consider themselves to be Irish. My son responded that rather than take offense, he may want to consider what other country the size of Ireland, or any size for that matter, has had the worldwide impact and enduring pride of the Irish. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. That was very well said indeed. And you reminded me, I did want to also thank the National Park Service. They cannot be here today as they are short on staffing and it is a Sunday. But I do want to acknowledge their help. They got this park cleaned up very well for this, just for this affair today. And they have also lent us the speaker system. So I do want to thank Rita Gunther for doing all of that. I'm going to ask now for Sarah McAuliffe to come up to the microphone. Sarah is the president of our IAUC Pittsburgh chapter, and she was also the Grand Marshal of the 2016 Pittsburgh St. Patrick's Day Parade. She's very active not only in the IAUC, but also in the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernian in Pittsburgh. Oh, she's also, thank you, sir. I didn't know this. You're a member of a newly formed committee in Pittsburgh to commemorate the history of the Irish who emigrated to the Pittsburgh area. So that's another great involvement. Sarah's paternal grandparents are from Listowel and Ballyshannon in County Kerry. Sarah, welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to take part in this annual commemoration of our Robert Emmet. He was a man who was inspired, who's actually inspired so many over the years, including the Patriots of 1916, up to more current, recent times, to act on behalf of the country he loved. And he did it in spite of certain execution that would come. And I think we all have to take a fair amount of courage and honor from those actions and words that he had, because courage is sometimes found in short service nowadays. I do want to welcome our new ambassador to Ireland, or from Ireland, and I really hope you have the opportunity in the near future to visit Pittsburgh. We would welcome you, and we'll show you the sights here. Not as grand a city as the district, but we have plenty to do too. And one of the things I just want to say with respect to the community that I come from in Pittsburgh is that we do fight, I think, above our weight in terms of activities and support and interest that focus on our heritage and the support for the citizens of the island of Ireland and our concern for peaceful reconciliation. So it means a lot to me to be part of such a broad community of different groups that come together for a common cause. In spite of the National Park Service not being here, I do want to extend my thanks to them, because I wasn't sure what to expect, and but it looks lovely. Some of the bushes need a bit of a haircut, but other than that, I think it's just a beautiful little island of Irish remembrance. So I think it's lovely. So my thanks go to them. I think, though, what it does bring home is the fact that memorials such as these do need to be kept in constant front of mind. If people forget them, as in the case that's happened in the past with the Emmet statue, they are forgotten. Commemorations are no longer held. I think the National Park Service has a lot on its plate. So, I'm very hopeful and that the community of Irish in the DC area will come together and help keep the park in front of mind, but also in its wonderful condition too, and that it's remembered for many generations to come. So, thank you, Peter, and to all the Hibernians here and everybody else present. Thinking about the park again, many hands make light work, and I think we'll keep Robert Emmet's memory alive in the future when we all join together. So thanks again, and let's move on with the program, and I'm ready to get out of the sun right now anyway. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always so good to hear of what activities Irish Americans are doing in places other than Washington, D.C. And just to emphasize what Sarah said about the park, by the way, the Park Service is really struggling for lack of funds. They're struggling from lack of staffing. This park had unfortunately been terribly overgrown up until about 2 weeks ago. It looked like a jungle, but the Park Service really stepped up and took care of it. And I can report that I'm now working with the Park Service to form a volunteer group where we could police this park a couple of times a year and keep it looking like it does today and like it should look. And I'm sure Mr. Emmet would be very glad when we do that. I'm now going to ask another of our board members, Bill Black, to read Emmet's speech from the dock. No, don't worry, he's not going to read it all. It's really long. He's going to read the powerful words at the end of the speech. Come on up, Bill.
Thanks very much. And just to get my ancestry out there as well, my grandmother and grandfather, Margaret O'Mahony and Daniel Singleton, were from Ballineen in County Cork. And my father's ancestor, Archibald Black, emigrated from Rathlin Island off the north coast of Ireland, and during the, oh, okay. Can I get any closer?
Yeah, you need to speak right into it.
Okay.
You might just repeat
All right, can you hear me now? Okay, well, I'm going to have to go through that again then. To describe my ancestry, my grandmother and grandfather, Margaret O'Mahony and Daniel Singleton, were from Ballineen in County Cork, and my father's ancestor, Archibald Black, emigrated from Rathlin Island off the north coast of Ireland in 1848 during the famine. So that's my background, and I'm honored to also cite Senator Frances Black, who's very active, and many people may know, the ambassador may know, Frances, her father was born and raised on Rathlin Island, and while we haven't been able to find the common ancestor, we're pretty sure we're cousins of some sort. And I am honored, deeply honored, to be the warm-up act for our new ambassador. Welcome, Ambassador. This is the final words of Robert Emmet from the dock on September 19th, 1803. I have but one request to ask at my departure from this world. It is the charity of its silence. Let no man write my epitaph, for as no man knows my motives, dare now vindicate them, let not prejudice or ignorance asperse them. Let them and me repose in obscurity and peace, and my tomb remains uninscribed until other times and other men can do justice to my character. When my country takes her place among the nations of the earth, then and not till then, let my epitaph be written. I have done. Thank you.
And you have done very well reading that. Thank you for that very much. It's really well done, Bill. Thank you. You know, when you mentioned about your ancestry and being related to Frances Black, I was afraid for a minute you were going to try to give us a little Irish air or something, so spared us that. She has all the vocal talent. It's now my distinct pleasure to welcome Ireland's new ambassador to the United States, Geraldine Byrne Nason. Geraldine comes to us from the United Nations, where she served as Ireland's ambassador to the United Nations. She has previously served as the ambassador to France. She has served as the ambassador to Monaco and also to the European Union. And she was a member of the UN Security Council and was instrumental in getting Ireland to become the president of the Security Council. And she has spent her career dedicated to civil service for the Republic of Ireland, and we can all thank her for that. And we can all look forward to working with the new ambassador here in Washington. We're glad to hear you were an Irish dancer. That fits right in with, there's a lot of Irish culture here in the Mid-Atlantic region, which you will see and hear more and more. And we're glad to have the musicians here to really kind of usher you into that. So we are looking forward to working with the ambassador over the next couple of years. Dan Mulhall, as we all know, was such a wonderful ambassador and worked so well with Irish America across the country and with Congress. And prior to him, of course, I want to mention Ann Anderson, who was also very, very helpful and friendly toward not only the IAUC, but Irish America writ large. And we look forward to Ambassador Nason following in that same tradition. And sometime I need to do a little more digging in my own ancestry, because my great-grandmother's name was Mary Byrne, B-Y-R-N-E, spelled the same way. So maybe there's a connection, like Bill has one to Frances Black. Maybe somewhere you and I have a connection somewhere, Ms. Ambassador. But with that, I'd like to welcome you to share your thoughts with us. Sure, of course. Why don't you go stand behind us?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. I want to thank my cousin Peter for fixing the microphone there. Thank you, Peter.
I'll take that.
Good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to join you here this morning on what I think is my 13th or 14th day as Ireland's ambassador to the United States. I can't think of a better way to spend my first Sunday in DC working here with you, and I absolutely look forward to trying to follow in the footsteps of those illustrious predecessors Peter mentioned, Dan Mulhall, of course, and my great friend Ann Anderson. So seriously looking forward to working with you, and very soon getting to Pittsburgh. That's one of the invitations that's most publicly delivered there, and I hope I can live up to the warm welcome. You know, when I arrived here, I did notice that this park was just a few blocks away from our embassy. That's a surprise for me, but a happy surprise, and I'm inclined to take it, as Irish people do often take hope from symbol, that this is a hopeful sign that Robert Emmet looks down on us at the embassy, and I'll take it as that, particularly as I start my tour here in the United States as ambassador. We're a century on from the achievement of Irish independence, so it seems absolutely so right that I find myself standing here this morning in the shadow of this great man. This fine park, this man, demonstrate the power of ideas, the ideas that Emmet espoused, and frankly, as I heard in each of your remarks this morning, the ideas that still inspire us. To Irish Americans in the 19th century, he stood as a strong symbol for the idea of our Irish independence. He wasn't our only advocate, obviously, for that precious invitation or independence. But what I'd like to ask this morning at the beginning is, why is it Emmet, who has had such... Why is it Robert Emmet, who has had such a deep and long-lasting impact on our Irish-American family here in the United States? After all, as we heard again this morning, at first glance, he mightn't have been the most likely to be remembered as he has been. That uprising in 1803 didn't succeed. On the morning of the 23rd of July, 1803, small bands of men rose up in Dublin and Kildare. Courageous as they were poorly armed, and quickly became clear to the leaders that it was really a lost cause. Emmet himself, as we know, went on the run, and many sources suggest that he went on the run with the idea of coming to America. Sadly, he never made it to America and was captured in his attempt to be nearer to his sweetheart, Sarah Curran. Perhaps that is part of what made him such a romantic symbol in the effort for Irish independence. He was a man of passion for his country and his girl. What has truly embedded Emmet in our shared history and our respect, our affection, was the power of his words. And for me, that's a quintessentially Irish assumption, and I think we have the evidence that bears that out. After receiving his death sentence, as we've heard, he spoke from the dock and assured in those words an enduring power as well as symbolism. His oft-quoted, and we've just heard it beautifully read by Francis Black's cousin, Bill Black. I feel, as it's my first time, you'll allow me just to repeat a few of those words. Let no man write my epitaph. When my country takes her place among the nations of the earth, then shall my character be vindicated, then may my epitaph be written. Clearly, that stirred the hearts, the minds, and the spirit of America, of Irish America. Those words probably left the listener in the 19th century with a sense of hope, a sense of pride in that idea of Irish independence. And I believe those words also sowed the seeds of the extraordinarily staunch support we see for Irish sovereignty from our US friends right up to today. They certainly left their mark on President Abraham Lincoln, who it said knew that speech by heart. Maybe part of the appeal to Lincoln was trying to win some political support, maybe a rather transactional support over Irish Catholics, encouraging them to join efforts in the Civil War, which, by the way, they did in huge numbers. As you know, 150,000 served in the Union Army. Though I think that's a little unfair and undersells the power of Emmet's thoughts and words. It reduces his attachment to political principle and objectives. He's reported, I believe, Lincoln actually recited Emmet's words as a young man, which for me demonstrates the power of that speech from the dock extraordinaire. The dramatic circumstances it was delivered in and its enduring quality speak for themselves. A young man standing there, as we heard, for 12 hours, putting his life on the line, sacrificing his life for the love of his country. It doesn't get much deeper than that, more powerful than that, in terms of belief in an idea. Emmet's iconic speech, we know, was also regarded here in the United States, properly so, as an example of fine oratory, especially in the nascent Irish Catholic education system. We understand it was often quoted in the periphery of work camps for Irish labourers in the United States. One example I know of is in Lowell, Massachusetts, where Irish people were building canals, working in mills in the 1820s, doing that hard graft that we know so many of our ancestors did here. The schools they established gradually gained acceptance, and in 1832 the Lowell Courier praised the excellent preparation of these students for public secondary education by citing role models, the great orators, and they quote a Sheridan, a Burke, a Grattan and an Emmet, all great political orators. So I think we can assume that this incredible speech by Emmet was taught to many Irish American school children, which I think may help to explain, at least in part again, some of its enduring appeal. Of course, we all know here, those of us here this morning, that the power of Irish America, the inspiration and the power of Irish America went on to be built on, went from strength to strength in the next century. Almost 25 years ago, in my view, that US solidarity and belief in Ireland demonstrated itself in a singular American foreign policy success with the agreement of the Good Friday Agreement. We had dark times. From the 1970s onwards, Irish America was crucial in pressing for the change, with successive US administrations becoming more and more involved in Northern Ireland. US involvement proved to be a key ingredient, key to bringing all parties to the table and securing peace on April 10th, 1998. Next April, we will mark a remarkable quarter of a century since that truly historic agreement was signed. The United States and Irish America not only played a crucial role in bringing about this agreement, but in continuing to give encouragement to sustaining that peace. And I would like to repeat that, continuing to give encouragement to sustaining that peace. I would like to think that Emmet is at least seriously looking at that epitaph now. Truth is, the preservation of that peace, the promotion of reconciliation through the shared institutions of the Good Friday Agreement is a cornerstone of Ireland's approach to Northern Ireland, and indeed it takes ongoing political commitment to do that. It takes much needed political will. That's a day by day approach. It takes serious effort. Today, we're facing what my Foreign Minister Simon Coveney this week called very serious times for Britain and Ireland. We need to see a change in the direction of travel and to see Britain sincerely sit down and work with the EU on the outstanding issues on the protocol that was necessitated by Brexit. We've seen tension and standoff. Now we need partnership, we need political will, we need vision, and we need the inspiration and the commitment to the ideas that we know Emmet sowed back well over 200 years ago. We need to see the British government show a readiness to negotiate with the European Union. We're guardedly optimistic with the new government in place. Tomorrow in London, Taoiseach Micheál Martin will meet with the new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss. We're hoping also to see some of the optimistic signs we did in Northern Ireland this week bring the executive back into functioning, up and running, so they can continue to do their own important electorally mandated work in Northern Ireland. As we know, the Good Friday Agreement itself provides for Irish unity by consent, and there is a provision for holding a referendum on the subject when the time is right for that. Both governments are committed to accepting the outcome of such a referendum. Today, we're concerned by ongoing developments. We're hopeful for tomorrow. And that's why, over the coming year, I will seek to remind all our US friends of what determined and sincere efforts of the United States can achieve as we work to celebrate 25 years of peace in Northern Ireland. I will work tirelessly with American partners in government, in Congress, across the Irish communities, as all of you are gathered here today, to consolidate the great progress that we made since the historic events in April 1998. 100 years on from independence and a remarkable 219 years on from Emmet's Rebellion, I'm very proud to be here today representing a modern, a diverse and inclusive Ireland that makes its mark on the world. Peter mentioned that we currently sit on the Security Council, where I spent the last 2 years representing a strong, independent country with a voice that President Kennedy described when he spoke to the Dáil as protecting the weak, the voice of the small. He added that we had a voice of a country whose hour has come. I'm proud, very proud, that Ireland is no longer a place that exports its brightest and its best, but has become a global magnet for talent from across the world. I'm incredibly proud of the social progress that Ireland has made in the protection of LGBT rights, in the referendum on marriage equality, and the full protection of women's reproductive rights through the repeal of the 8th Amendment of our Constitution. The modern Ireland of today is a proud member of the European Union. We stand up for our values, we protect the vulnerable, we speak out for human rights, our own and those across the world who have no one else to speak out for them. I've witnessed our recent very prominent role in the Security Council in relation to Ukraine. Since March, we don't just, I will say also, we're not just a rhetorical vessel, we actually deliver. Since March, Ireland has welcomed nearly 50,000 Ukrainian refugees to our small island. If we did that here in the United States, that would be the equivalent of taking 2.5 million refugees in 6 months. I think that demonstrates our solidarity and our principled approach to helping those who need it. Everyone here today honouring Robert Emmet will know that Ireland and the United States enjoy a unique and enduring critical relationship. That bond has spanned water, conflict, generations, and continues to grow deep and strong. It's a relationship, I believe, that's anchored in shared values. It's enriched by the bonds forged through the many generations of Irish people that came from Rathlin Island, from Mayo, from County Louth. I will say in parenthesis that I come from a part of County Louth where President Biden's ancestors come from, and that he had a great-grandmother who was called Geraldine. So I think this is a destiny moment. But all of those people who came from, as we will admit, very difficult circumstances in the country I love best, in Ireland, they came and formed a living, vibrant bridge between two great countries. And we now have a relationship that is rooted, not bound, but rooted by our history and absolutely looking forward to the future. Today, I know over 30 million Americans claim Irish heritage, and each year there's a thrilling cross-fertilization, people traveling in both directions to visit, to study, to work, and to enjoy our two wonderful countries. That vibrant, vital Irish-American community right across this country. I was in South Bend, Indiana yesterday at Notre Dame for the Fighting Irish, so I saw what it means to have special affinity with the United States, not just on Capitol Hill, but right across the country in live and vibrant way. Your pride, the way you deliver and live that heritage, is so important to us, and frankly, growing those binding ties between the United States and Ireland couldn't be more important than it is now in such uncertain times, as I hinted at in my earlier remarks. So, proud to be here, and let's stand and remember the words inscribed on this wonderful statue behind me. I wish to procure for my country the guarantee which Washington procured for America. That is the celebration and the fulfillment of Robert Emmet's vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those not only inspiring words, but those encouraging and reassuring words, Madam Ambassador. We in Irish America look to the government of Ireland to lead the way in terms of improving matters in the north and ensuring the peace. We give all the support we can, but we know that it is the Irish government who must lead on that issue, and your words mean a great deal to all of us here today. So thank you very much for that. I want to mention just a couple of other things before we close. Just picking up on what the ambassador said about Robert Emmet's statue smiling on the Irish embassy, which is very true, but we here in America like to say that he's also got his back to the British embassy. I might just mention everybody has properly indicated their connection to Ireland, and some of you may be wondering what a German is up here for leading this particular occasion. So my ancestors came from Hesse-Darmstadt. Oh no, wrong side of the family. My ancestors came from Offaly and Meath and Dublin, and the first of my Irish ancestors landed here literally 1 month before the potato famine hit Ireland. In June 23rd, 1845, the Smith family came here, and two of the sons fought in the American Civil War, one for the 35th New York and the other one for the 186th New York Infantry Regiment. They were both severely injured. They were both shot through the head. So much like Emmet's sacrifice, a lot of Irish Americans came over, as you said, Ambassador. Many native Irish fought in the American Civil War. I think it was actually closer to like 180,000, something like that. 200,000 native Germans fought in that war. 200,000 African Americans fought in that war. And it just reminds me of what a nation, what a melting pot this nation is. And we need to maintain that tradition as we go forward. And again, we welcome you. We thank you very much for your inspiring words. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you again. And in closing, I also, of course, want to thank again the National Park Service, but I also want to thank very much the Ancient Order of Hibernians for the wonderful color guard they provided, as well as Don's very appropriate comments here today. And let's have a real round of applause for our wonderful musicians who provided us the entertainment. Take a bow, guys. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day. We'll see you next year.